So firstly, I'll get into what exactly is a buyer's meeting. So I don't know how many of you might have been exposed to this or understand what a buyer's meeting is, but pretty much in its simplest format, it's a meeting between a buyer and a seller. And obviously, the seller being the designer yourselves, who's trying to sell their wares to a particular retailer, be it a department store, boutique, or whatever, right? So the seller, in essence, who's a designer, obviously you're going to convey certain information to the retail outlet or the buyer, and is this on? Yeah. Right, to the retail outlet, and you need to highlight what the benefits of the collection and why this particular store, this particular retailer should carry your line. All right, so again, essentially you want to build a relationship with the potential store. So at this buyer's meeting, right, just like if you attend an interview, right, you want to convey the best image or best identity of your brand. You want to make a great first impression, right? So it's just like meeting someone for the first time. And typically in the global fashion industry, we don't have market weeks in Trinidad and Tobago. Typically in the global fashion industry, like New York, London, the fashion capitals, there's market week. And this is when you'd find like a lot of the designers would meet with buyers from the various department stores and so on. So in Trinidad, we're not at that point yet where we have a defined market week or a defined selling period or defined selling weeks or whatever. So in essence, when you see the word market week, it pertains to the international market, as you see. All right. So with respect to ahead of the next selling season, and you'd see in the global fashion industry where you have, as Hannah highlighted earlier, you might have spring, summer, and you would have autumn, winter. Those are the two main seasons. And pretty much you'd see the market weeks or the fashion shows and so on, they take place at least 6 months in advance of the next selling season. So in let's say in September, right? Let's say in September of the year, you'd see they would show garments or collections for spring, summer of the following year, right? So typically it's about 6 months in advance of the selling season, right? So as far as presentations, you'd see they may take different formats. And as far as selling a collection, right, you could have what is called you could have the buyer's meeting, which is a person-to-person contact. You could have a phone call, so that might be in a case where you are located here in Trinidad and Tobago and you're dealing with buyers overseas, right? Also, it might be online, so we know you could stream online or have video conference calls and so on. So there are different formats that are acceptable, and it depends on the retailer if they're willing to entertain such formats. Remember, you're trying to build a relationship with a particular retailer. So you need to make sure that even if they carry your brand, right, so they decide to carry your brand, you need to have some sort of after-sales service, right? So whether it is you have a new collection coming out, so you might want to do some sort of preliminary meeting with them to show them what it is you're coming up with next, right? So you want to make sure that you establish that relationship, right? So you want to make sure that you have some sort of after-sales service, right? Probably with respect to your fit and so on. Probably there might be any issues. They might have a certain number that they could contact for support, okay? And you want to stay on the ball, right? So meaning you want to be responsive. So for example, let's say the retailer, they carry a line and it sells really quickly, right? They might want to place another order. So if they want to do a reorder with you, you want to make sure that you could be responsive and be flexible in a short time frame, all right? Let's say you have a buyer's meeting. They are interested in carrying a line. Sometimes this is an area where you want to be flexible, right? So the designer might say, you know what, we like this, but do you offer it in this particular fabric or do you offer it in a particular color, right? So this is what this is referring to, right? So if you might be able to customize it to fit their store, right? How is your product packaged to sell? So is it a box, clip strip, clamshell, and I'll show you some stuff later as far as packaging and floor-ready merchandising, right? Are you priced competitively, right? So continuing, who is your competition? Has your product been tested? Do you hold patents for your product, right? So can it be knocked off, right? What is the average defect rate for your product, and what is the warranty? What are your minimum order quantities? Are you able to provide enough inventory for a large order? All right? Are these in stock? If not, how soon can you deliver? All right? Will you be able to keep up with demand if your pieces sell out faster than expected? If all goes well, how soon can you ship reorders? Are you willing to do consignment? Are you willing to do a wholesale discount or promotion? And a lot of times, especially if you're an emerging designer, it might be helpful where the store might do some sort of a promotional launch or even like a trunk show or some type of event to promote or test to see how your line would do in their store. Right? So it's not uncommon to have that. Right? What are your payment terms? So, so in preparing for the buyers meeting, right, again, with respect to what I said earlier, right, you want to be unique, different, you want to be innovative. And again, as far as you being picked up by a store, you want to make sure that you create the best impression early on, right? So they want to make sure that your brand is exciting, that it would impact their customers effectively, right? When you're presenting a collection, you want to present it in a logical sequence, and that logical sequence should be the same sequence that you have the garments in, right, in your line sheets, right? The reason you want to do that is you want to make sure that they follow along as you present the garment. So the very first garment, if you were to present, right, this first one. Now I have this here package because I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, right? But obviously if I was at a buyer's meeting, this would be on a hanger, right? Wrinkle-free, right? So following that one, let's say if this were the second one, right, I would have that one on a hanger display and I would present it in that fashion. I have that shirt there, right? So you want the clothes to speak for themselves and you want to highlight any key selling points. Okay, so key selling points. Now, if you're a designer who is not into trends, all right, so you might consider yourself a trendsetter. Again, you want to highlight within your collection what are your trends in silhouettes, what are your trends in fabrics, what are your trends in color. However, you might have key selling points, for example, if you are tapping into trends. So let's say there are current trends that exist within the marketplace, right? You might have garments that tap into that particular trend. That would be a key selling point, right? So key selling points, again, could be fabrication, any particular styling details on your garments, probably some trims and notions you have on your garments. These could be key selling points with respect to your garments. So you want to make sure and highlight those, and you could do that on the line sheet as well. The lookbook is something, again, it could communicate the personality of your brand. So where you could extend that information as far as conveying the personality of your brand and conveying tell more of the story of your particular brand. All right, so I'm going to show you an example of a lookbook that just for mock-up purposes, right? Again, this is a marketing tool. Again, it's to grab the buyer's attention and to make them more enthusiastic to actually buy a collection, right? So again, it's to get their attention. And as I was saying before, a good way to convey your brand identity and to tell the story of your brand, convey your vision, convey your values, right, and make that lasting impression. So pretty much, right, you would see, as opposed to the line sheets, you'd find that the lookbooks have more editorial type images. Now, I just used the same images I used from the line sheets, like I said, for just a mock-up purpose. But if you look at the images to the side, these are all images of lookbooks. So you see, again, it's more editorial in terms of the format, right? So it's easier for you to tell your story and convey the image or the personality of your brand.